Hey besties, we're back. We're just
Hi.
gonna do a little catch up, I think. It's actually been a
Yeah.
while since we've been in the recording virtual studio.
Oh
So
my
what's been
gosh,
going on with you
it's been
ladies?
a really long 3 months. It's been really challenging, I think, for me. I let me think. I'll just hit the major milestones. I was officially diagnosed with ADHD. I caught COVID for the first time. I was out for like 8 weeks. Um, my daughter and my husband have been giving each other they've been trading their colds back and forth for like the past 6 weeks. Um, so yeah, it's been really crazy and hectic in my household. But I know, Maryn, you have news, and also I know lots of things have been going on in Leah's household as well. So yeah, what's been going on with you guys?
I feel like I visualize like I'm like Ray. I'm having a visual. I visualize you earning like the Girl Scout badges for each of
Yeah,
those
like little patches.
challenges.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe
I
mom
love it.
badges.
Mom badges.
Yeah. Leah, why don't you go next?
Yes, I'll go next. When
December.
was the last time we talked? What was the last thing I shared, right? I don't remember. Oh, okay, so my mom's dog passed away. That was a rough first month, especially for my mom. She lives with us. She's
Hmm.
had her dog for 13 years. And, I think just going through loss all over again. She adopted the dog a year after my dad passed, so I think there was just a lot of um, those same type of grief emotions. So that was a big one. Not too much else. I guess one thing that's been keeping me busy is
Yay.
my sister's getting married next month, so my cousin and I are, yeah, helping her plan her welcome party. She has a welcome party, then there's a rehearsal, the wedding, a brunch. She has people
Oh my
flying
God.
in from, yeah, the UK, Uganda. So it's like a lot of, yeah, there's a lot of planning involved, but really exciting stuff. It's the first wedding we've had with the family in a while, so everyone's super excited. And then I think the last piece was not as intense as yours, Ray, but we've had a bug going back and forth around our household for the last 2 weeks also, and it's rough. 8 weeks sounds a lot rougher, but never fun. Um, oh, and just yeah, the world, the economy, politics, all that happening in the background every day has been
Yeah, we didn't get that new year, new you, like fresh start.
no,
We got like the new year, same you with more challenges.
not even same. Like I think
That
we're
should
going
be the new.
backwards
Retrograde.
in history.
Yeah,
Yes, like it
exactly. It
really
is
yeah,
Mercury retrograde too. We had some technical issues
yeah. Took a
getting
bit
started. Yeah.
out of practice. But Maryn, yeah. What about you? What's been going on lately?
Yeah, well, we do have big news to share. The ladies already know, but we just announced like on social media, so all our friends and family know. But yeah, me and my husband were expecting a baby boy this summer. So I'm about halfway through my pregnancy. So based on that, now I'm finally joining the moms club as a mom to be. So I think that's going to be our topic for today. Um, I've obviously been trying to get our baby registry together, and I've been reading a bunch of books, and I've been so focused on like the baby part of
Hmm.
it that I kind of forgot about myself and what I'm going through. And so along the way of like all my internet digging and like my mom research, I came across this term called matrescence. Have either of you heard of this term? I'm sure Ray has because she's like, she knows
Like
everything.
I'm no, please explain.
Well, I hadn't heard of it until I came across it recently. So I'm just looking up. So it's the term, matrescence is the term for the transition to motherhood and the many changes that occur during this time, including the physical, emotional, social, and cultural changes that women experience as they become mothers. And it was actually coined by an anthropologist in the 1970s. So if you can tell from the name, it kind of sounds like adolescence. And I kind of feel that way. Like since adolescence, I don't feel like I've gone through so many physical changes, like day to day. I just don't know what surprise awaits me. Like it's really hard to plan things because I don't know how I'm going to feel and how things are going to affect me. And so I love to kind of dig into this because I just finished a book that was by Alexandra Sachs. She's actually a reproductive psychologist. And so she talks about kind of the emotional ride of pregnancy. We'll link the book in the show notes. But anyway, I'm trying to kind of be like, okay, I can't forget about me as the mom in this
Yeah.
process and have it only be about the baby, you know, and especially like the birth process and all of that. So I'd love to kind of, as you as the veteran moms who have been through it, Rée has been through it a little bit more recently. Lia, you may have to dig in your memory box because I know moms just forget a lot of stuff, a lot of the stress. But yeah, like, were you thinking about that? I mean, what is your recollection of like from the pregnancy, like you kind of becoming a mom?
Yeah, Lia, I
like,
want
what
to
was
hear
your
from you
experience like?
first. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go the veteran and then we'll
Oh
circle back
gosh.
to me.
You know what? With my son, my firstborn, my relationship to work actually didn't change. I felt good enough to like participate in meetings, do presentations. I remember pulling a late night a couple times for like a rush project and just hanging in there with the rest of the team up until like I took a month before leave, and I was able to power through. And I think part of that, like at the time, work was such a big part of my identity, and I kind of knew like once I gave birth, like everything would change. So I think it was part of that. I think it was part getting closure of like, okay, like this part of me. That's not to say, yeah, I started going down rabbit holes of learning about, like mom forums and what about this? What can I eat? What can't I eat? I remember freaking out one time because I had papaya salad, and apparently that's a huge
Oh yeah.
no because of the latex. Anyway, I
Yeah.
remember calling a nurse and freaking out, and they're like, it's fine, like just, don't do it again. Kind of. But it's like things you don't realize. I was like avoiding, yeah, everything else, raw meat and stuff. I think that was one milestone. Um, I think, and then the other piece immediately after, where when you were describing what matrescence, did I say that right? Matrescence was, and we can dig into this a little bit more, is after I gave birth, there was a period where I definitely lost myself and everything like how I lived, breathed, ate, everything was around the baby. And I remember getting out of that haze like 6 months later and then realizing I needed to come back to find myself. So there was definitely a period between giving birth and then those first 6 months that yeah,
They
I
call
Mm.
that
had an identity
the fourth
crisis.
trimester, right? Because that
Interesting.
was
Yeah,
one
yeah.
thing. I watched a couple of videos about matrescence before we jumped on the call, and they were kind of talking about from like the anthropology standpoint or whatever. A lot of mammals come out more fully baked than human babies. I think they're saying like if the
Yeah.
babies were fully baked, then we'd be pregnant for like 18 months or more. Right, because they have
Gosh,
to be like their
I
Yeah.
know.
skulls have to be soft so they can come out, and so like they're extremely needy, like they can't do anything. So I feel like that really does account. I like that they're at least talking more about this fourth
Hmm.
trimester, so you don't feel like what's wrong with me because it's just
Yeah,
so much work
Yeah.
from what I'm gathering.
it does
Yeah.
screw you over. How much they need you. That's right. Yeah, like what? I think is it horses or cows? Like
Yes. Like the
calves
next,
are born walking,
like,
like
I
within
think
the
it's
first
just
day or so.
within a matter of hours, I think they're like fully walking and then running.
So unfair.
That's why we have horse therapy. The horses have to teach us because we have too much stress.
Yeah.
What about you, Rée? I know
Yeah, right.
You have a
Well,
lot of emotions
it's,
that were.
definitely because I'm neurodivergent and all these things that they talk about how, like, I don't know if this is true scientifically, or at least whether science supports this, but I think anecdotally, a lot of people who are neurodivergent say that uh, we actually, our prefrontal cortexes develop um, longer. So I think most people, their prefrontal cortexes are fully developed by the age of 25, 26. But I think anecdotally speaking, a lot of neurodivergent people say, oh, I didn't finish maturing my brain until I was in my 30s. And so science doesn't support that this is necessarily true. But I think we feel like we're not really fully mature or capable of adulting until a lot later. And for me, I don't feel like my brain completely matured before I became a mom. And I became a mom like when I was 37, 38. And I feel like it just finally matured. But it also was even more exacerbated by the fact that moms' brains change after they give birth. And also, I also found out that I was neurodivergent while I was pregnant, and then I wasn't officially diagnosed until, I don't know, my daughter was 3. So my journey has been very nuanced in a way, kind of like very untypical of, I think, most mothers' journeys. Not only because I'm neurodivergent, but also I'm living in another country who classifies mental disorders and neurodivergence differently. Um, so there are just lots of, confounding variables that make my journey slightly, maybe not as mainstream relatable. And so the way that I think I relate to matrescence is a little bit different. But essentially, it's been a really tough journey. And Lia, you mentioned like it was 6 months of you like wondering, who am I? Who's my baby? Like, am I just the mother? Where is me? Like, you talk about that, and it took 6 months for you, but I feel like I'm still not over that. Like, I struggle with this like on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. I'm constantly in tears. I don't know if you can tell, my eyes are puffy today because yeah, I was like crying yesterday about something related to matrescence or my motherhood journey. So it's, I think, very similar to adolescence. I don't think there's like a clear start and a clear end, and kind of like grief, like it doesn't really end. It's just your relationship to that journey changes over time, but it'll always be a little hard, I think. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a very it's like this ongoing thing. And I just wonder, I guess, before I ask, like, Maryn, I'm curious how this beginning stage of matrescence is for you. And also, I'm curious how it has changed for Lia, and whether it really was just 6 months, or was that like the bulk of your experience of feeling like this was a big transition, and how it has evolved for you. Because I mean, it's almost been a decade that you've become a mother, that you've been a mother. So yeah.
Maryn,
Yeah.
we'll go to you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Fresh on this journey.
Yeah, I'm about 20 weeks, so I'm really at the mid mark, and I was, 40 when I became
that's
pregnant.
right.
So I'm a geriatric
pregnancy.
or whatever. It's maternal
So
age.
gross how they say
Yeah.
that.
They have that on all my paperwork. And so, yeah, I had so much anxiety and fears about becoming pregnant, like thinking the worst beforehand. But surprisingly, I've been very blessed. Like everything's normal, everything, the conception was easy. I think my mom, on the other side, she's definitely helping me out. And, I think with my older age, I'm a little more chill. Like I am just rolling with things. And I have a feeling if I got pregnant when I was younger, I would have tried to be more perfectionistic about things. I mean, I'm still a Virgo and I'm still type A. I'm still doing the research, but yeah, I think the
Yeah.
physical symptoms were hard because, Rée, as you were saying, like, your brain changes becoming a mom,
Yeah.
but I feel like that already starts happening in pregnancy, right? Like all the hormones, like my sense of smell was so sensitive, like everything revolted me. Like and I had all these grand dreams, like I'm gonna be so healthy and I'm
Yeah.
gonna have all this stuff, and I could barely
Yeah.
even, I didn't even like the smell of any food, and so it just all these different
Hmm.
surprises, but that part is hard. It's not like I'm one that really struggles with, I like to have control, but yeah, feeling so out of control and just not sure how you're going to feel. Like there's times when I'm running like, during the first trimester, I'd be out running errands and then I just all of a sudden feel like throwing up. I'd have to run to the bathroom, or, I'd feel lightheaded and I'd have to like breathe and kind of unsure of myself driving, so it's a very vulnerable state, like having to be, at the will of your body. And I really do feel that, like, I'm kind of like, I'm very aware that I'm this house for this little creature growing inside of me. And so, yeah, it was very disorienting, especially during that first trimester where it's like things that I used to like, I don't like anymore. And so it's just like a process of
Mm.
kind of trial and error. And so, yeah, it's definitely, that part of it is a little bit exhausting. Every night is different in terms of sleep. Like I have to wake up and pee, or the movement wakes me up. And so it's like my body is training
Yeah.
me to just be getting up at night, So it's like, it's kind of crazy,
Yeah.
like it's magical, but then it is inconvenient. I'm tired all the time. I'm like, I just want to sleep. Like, I feel like I run a marathon when I just do like normal things. I'm like, okay, I went out, I ran my
Well,
errands
yeah,
and
because you're
whatever, and I'm
also
so
growing an
exhausted.
eyeball.
So,
You're growing like an organ. You're growing
Yeah.
as human while you're doing all
exactly.
these other things for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is like, it is strange. It's a bit of a cognitive dissonance sometimes. I mean, I'm going in every month and getting ultrasounds, so probably more than, maybe a younger mom. But so it's like when I see
Yeah.
the photos and I'm like, oh, wow, he's really in there. Because sometimes I forget, or if he's
Yeah.
being quiet. And so I'm just like, I don't know, it's just, it's a ride for sure. So I feel like this is like a little condensed version of
Yeah.
probably how motherhood is over the long term, because just like every day, month to month, everything's changing. It's like your child is also changing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm wondering, Lia, to raise question to you, like, how has it evolved?
Well, oh, before I answer, I'm curious,
Yeah.
are you doing the month-to-month photos? Like how much bigger your
I
belly's
haven't
getting or
even I
like
haven't been showing,
Yeah,
because
me
in the
too.
first trimester I actually lost weight because my
yeah.
appetite wasn't there. Yeah, so I'm still like down 10 pounds, I think. So I'm waiting for there to be something.
Something to take a photo of.
Because nobody even knows. I'm not even getting the mom privilege. Like nobody opens doors for me.
Yeah.
They can't even tell. So yeah.
I remember, well, I think I'll hit third trimester. I remember at my 40th weeks when I took a photo, there was like a basketball in my belly. Like it was like I popped so bad compared to the rest of it. But yeah, so I guess, yeah, when I reflect on 6 months,
Mm.
I would say that's the time like the fog lifted of, oh crap, whereas me, like, is work still that? What about all the other creative side projects I used to do? Because I let everything just, um, I just stopped everything,
Yeah.
stopped watercoloring, journaling, everything. Um, I could barely like stay up for like we would watch Game of Thrones, my husband and I, and whatever, right? In the middle of the night, when we're trying to like, I'm trying to nurse the baby, or we
Yeah.
have to change the baby. Um, and I would fall asleep. Like it was just a blur. Like I think that's the best way to describe it. I lost all track of time because I, was on leave.
Oh,
I didn't know
yeah.
if it was the weekday or the weekend, and like what time, right? You just, because you really don't need time.
Hmm.
It's just whenever the baby's awake or whenever the baby goes to sleep. Like that was life. And I would just say like the 6 month mark, yeah, 6 months from my son's birth is when I had that the identity crisis of, oh crap, I need to be more intentional about myself. But it's still a journey today. It's a lot better now. The differences I see between when my kids were more toddler age, 2, 3, 4, is they don't really comprehend instructions. Like if you go walking with them on the street, they will bolt. They don't know how to stay on the sidewalk. They don't know how to look both ways. There's just so many things. Like you need to hold their hand. You need to keep an eye at
Yeah.
them all times. You don't know if they're gonna go wandering off or missing if they're too quiet. It's scary if they're too quiet.
Yeah.
Like and that takes over your life, right? And
Yeah.
it's hard to make plans with friends
Yes.
because you're like, well, I remember working and then feeling guilty because they'd go to daycare or be seen by someone else all day, then they come home and you're like obligated to like hang out with them, and it just becomes a cycle anyway. So I don't know, I see the light of the tunnel at like
Mm,
when they hit like 4 years old, 5 years old, because once they start going to school, um, they become more like little people, like more so than like your kid that you have to take care of 24/7, but they start to
yeah.
be more and more autonomous in different ways. Um, Now that my kids are 8 and almost 10, um, oh, here's like another example is there was a good time like first like kinder first second grade where every party that their classmates would have, every birthday party, parents had to attend with the kids. Like you couldn't just like leave them. So that took up like almost every weekend because of course we're going to go to the party. They're all friends. All of the class gets invited to all of the birthday parties. Like that's
That's
just,
such a, isn't that a rule now? That's what I've heard, which is
well, what
what.
happens around third, fourth grade is your kids start to gravitate towards other kids. There are cliques, and it is more of a invite them, parents start to know each other, and then it becomes a more casual, like, come to our place in a couple of weeks. Then you don't have to go the class route. But yes, it is a requirement. Like, if you have invitations in class, you have invitations for everyone in the class. And it's hard too, like when they're in the early stages of school, you don't know any of the parents yet. You don't know who your kids aren't going to tell you who their best friends are. Like, it's you have no
They
idea.
might not be real. They could be imaginary.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. But then by the time, yeah, they hit like 7, 8 years old, you've had enough FaceTime with all the parents. You know which parents you click with, who, are consistent friends throughout several grades now. It's easier to kind of pinpoint who to invite for a birthday party. And now it's a game changer just this past year. Birthday parties start saying you can just drop them off and come and get them at a later time. And it's like amazing because then you're not beholden to the kid's schedule of, okay, I guess my whole Saturday is gonna be spent at the stranger's house with awkward people and just watching our kids do stuff. Like you could just like drop them off at, Top Golf or bowling or a friend's house. And and at least the moms and parents that I know are good at, like, even if you don't know them, like they'll still send pictures and like text me, here's my number in case like you want to get a hold of your kid. So I think with that dynamic, it's even more freeing now to start to see like they have their own lives apart from me. And that just gets reinforced like year over year. They start to ask, like, oh, can I walk to school with my friends? Or can you just drop us off here? Like, they don't need the hand holding all the way to the gate anymore. There's no tears. Like, when I drop them off to school, they're like excited to go to school. So I think, at least there will be milestones where I start to see shifts like, oh, they don't need me for that anymore. Like showers. I don't remember the exact time when my kids started taking their own showers. You know, like that happens, right? Like there will be a day.
Because I remember in an old episode you were saying how your daughter always wants someone to go turn the water on with
Not
her.
anymore. She can do it
I know.
herself, or sometimes she makes her brother do it
She's
for
really
her.
growing up.
But
She's shooting up too. She looks really tall now.
yes, so it's my
Oh,
son. Like he's like
Wow.
this to me now.
you're gonna
But
get the dads, those dad genes.
yeah, but yeah, I'll pause there. But I'm gonna say, like, I think in hindsight, yeah, like it feels like every day you're doing the same thing until you're not. And I can't pinpoint the day when it's the last time I brushed their teeth for them, the last time I, turned on the shower for them, the last time I did this. And it's really strange because, like, I don't know, right? Like, have you encountered some of those transitions yet? Like, I don't have to do this anymore.
No.
Because it's a
No,
game
I'm not
changer.
there
You're
yet.
like, no.
Like I'm waiting
Well,
to throw
because
a
some of
party when
these,
it happens.
like, there are regressions too, right? Because, like, for a long time, my daughter was sleeping
Yes.
independently, but then she'll, like, wake up at 4 in the morning and then she'll, like, come in and be like, oh, I'm gonna sleep here. And it's like, oh, I have no energy. Fine, just sleep here. Just don't fall off the bed, okay?
She's so assertive. She's so assertive. I love it. I'm gonna sleep
And I'm
here.
like, no, well,
It's a
you have to
command.
sleep quietly or else you have to go back to your room. And she's like, nope, I don't want to do either of these things. La, 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 la. And I'm just like, oh, life. Uh. And then at night, like, she doesn't want to go to sleep. And so she'll come out and she'll be like, nope, I'm gonna stay out here. And it's like, no. Oh my gosh, we had to sign up for Dr. Becky's community, like the Good Inside community, because I was like, I need help. And my therapist isn't helping me. And she's helping me manage my emotions, but I need like parenting help. Like, I don't, I want to do this right in a way where I'm not traumatizing my daughter, but I'm also creating boundaries that allow me to be a good person. Like there are things that I cannot stand and I just have to be not in the same room because then I become a monster. So I'm like, okay, well, it's probably better for everybody's health. Rather than me yelling or like doing something that I'm going to regret, I'm just going to remove myself from the situation. But I need those strategies, like I also need like a helpful community because you cannot be a parent and be on threads asking for help because everybody who wants to judge you is going to come and be like,
Everyone will
yeah.
give you
And they're gonna be like,
will give you their
you're a terrible
opinion.
mom. You're a terrible mom. I'm such a better mom than you. I mean, they don't say it in this way, but if you analyze the like structure of how they're saying what they're saying, they're like, well, it was easy for me. I don't know why you're struggling. Like, you figure it out.
That's how the Reddit forums are too. It's like so polarized. It's like
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely not. My kid loved it. My
So
kid hated
unhelpful.
it. But yeah, one thing when you're
No.
talking about Rée, it reminded me of this term. Have you heard of this
No.
term called intensive mothering?
No.
So
Explain.
apparently it's a cultural ideology. It's kind of referring to all the additional expectations that we have as mothers
Oh,
now
yeah.
than maybe like previous generations. So it says a cultural ideology that emphasizes mothers should prioritize their children's needs and devote significant time, energy, and
Yeah.
resources to their well being and development, often at expense of their own needs and aspirations. So it's kind of like, yeah, we do have so
Yeah.
much more kind of on our plate other than just keeping them alive, keeping them fed, keeping them clean, also making sure they're setting boundaries, making sure they have a healthy sense of self, making sure they're not being shamed about food or their body, right? It's just never ending. So it's like the
Yeah.
more work we're doing on ourselves, the more expectations we have, you know.
So relatable. I didn't know there was a term for that.
Rée
Yes.
feels that every minute.
I just saw it in a video like before our call. So that was one thing because yeah, I was watching an interview because there's actually a book
Mm.
about matrescence. I haven't read it yet, but it's let me just refer it here and we'll link it to. It's called Matrescence: On the Metamorphosis of Pregnancy,
Mm.
Childbirth, and Motherhood by Lucy Jones. So I was actually listening to an interview that she was doing, and the interview was asking her, oh, do you think that it's more challenging
Yeah.
for you or like your mom's generation? And you'd think like, oh, some people would be like, oh, our moms had it harder for whatever
We had it
reason.
harder.
But yeah, I mean, that was her response, was intensive mothering, is now that there's so much more, expectations with more knowledge, right? Like they didn't have the internet to be looking up every little thing. Like, is this plastic toxic? Is this, there's so many things.
So true.
Yeah. But I just love the term because it's like pretty and it just makes it sound like, yes, this is a process, and to, don't discount yourself in the process of becoming a mother, because one thing that Lucy Jones, she was mentioning, is that, motherhood is still very idealized. And then now there's even more so, like, oh, have a natural birth, all these different things. Don't let your kids, watch too much TV. Don't cage them in a playpen. Like just as I'm looking at products to put on our baby registry, like I see all of this discourse going on, and it's just like, okay. But yeah, there is kind of this romanticized idea still that, oh, the motherhood instincts are just going to kick in. It's very natural. And so that, yeah, when you give birth, something must be wrong with you if breastfeeding is not coming naturally, or you're having trouble with them sleeping, or you're kind of resentful of your kid, even though you should love them, right? So I think what she was recommending, and what that other psychologist was recommending, is just we should talk more about matrescence, talk more about the mother. Of course, it's important to be well informed about your baby and raising your kids, but the motherhood experience is really a lot of times left out of the conversation. And then a lot of mothers are kind of left to feel shame and to feel. So one thing that the psychologist was saying is that a lot of mothers are being diagnosed with, postpartum anxiety, or even during pregnancy, or depression, but really it's just normal, right? Like she was mentioning how you have those visions of your kid, like something bad happening to them when you're in public, right? Like you have those visions and you think, is something wrong with me? But it's actually just a part of the brain. Like that is actually helping you with your kid, because they've done studies with monkeys, and like the monkeys that don't have that just kind of jump in without having those anxious thoughts.
Yeah.
Half of their babies die in the wild. These are the kind of studies they were doing. So if we just see it as part of, like part of our brain's evolution as a mother, and just having more understanding about it. But instead, I feel like we're just kind of forced to experience these things, and we don't know what's normal, and, and we have this expectation that we should just always love our kids and love every part of the process. Because I've even had friends or people say that they just loved being pregnant. And that was during my first trimester, when I was just couldn't eat anything. And, I couldn't be around smells. And I'm just like, I don't really love this. Right. So does that make me a bad person? Like, are there other people just
Maryn,
like, I don't know.
Okay, I was on Instagram and people would post really bad lit photos of their food, and that would make me so nauseated. So during my pregnancy, I unfollowed everybody who posted bad pictures of their food. And it turns out I had no friends left, like on Instagram. And I was just, everybody eats.
Everyone
and they
eats,
post these really moist looking, disgusting, like gray things. And I'm like, I am so nauseated. Like somebody would say the word egg and I would like want to throw up.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh,
yeah,
eggs
even just
was a
the
trigger
word.
for me. Smelling scrambled eggs. I never knew scrambled eggs had a smell. Oh man, that was.
I would even like when I wake up, my own breath would like repel me. I have to brush my teeth right away.
Yeah.
And then brushing my teeth would also make me gag. And I'm just like, okay, great. Like, it's kind of torturous.
But as we talk about this journey of matrescence, I think something that I remember was a turning point for me is, I was feeling really like self-pity. And I was like, how did I get myself into this situation? I didn't want to be a mother for 20 plus, 30 plus years. And I became a mom because of the last 2 years of me changing my mind. How could I do this to myself, right? And I was just like in self-loathing, self-pity mode. And while I was nursing my daughter, I learned so much about like my biochemistry as a mother. And I was learning about like even just breast milk, right? It's not just nourishment, right? It's not just nutrition, but it's also a pharmacy. It's like a two-way pharmacy, right? It's like, hey, my breast milk has these nutrients and these antibodies and all of these things to protect you, to help you through this illness that you're going through. So like, you know, her saliva would give my body the feedback it needed to produce the thing that she needed to overcome that, right? And then also like there are different levels of cortisol in the breast milk during the morning and melatonin at nighttime. So it's also chronobiology, right? So it's also, it tells time. So I was like, oh, my breast milk is not just food, but it's also medicine and it's also a clock. And I started to be so like amazed by the like the utility, right? Like the efficiency um, of my body and what it was capable of doing. And so like I actually felt sort of like validated, or sort of I felt like I actually had use, like I was a necessary person and that I was a useful person on the planet, and that like during my most challenging hour that that I was important, that I was worthy of keeping alive too, because I was capable of doing these things for another human being. And this kind of leads into a different part of, I don't know if it's matrescence, but I guess it's intertwined with my understanding of like my future and my career. Like I was an educator for almost 20 years, but I, you know, with all the research that I've been doing through my podcast Homeroom, like I really have lost sort of respect for the word teacher and educator, because it's like we only have those terms because we value, because we think that we have all these things to teach people who are younger than us. And it's like, you know, and also I think by saying someone is a teacher, I mean, I know it's a profession, or by saying somebody is an educator, we sort of take away from the fact that everything, every situation, and every person has something to impart on someone else. And so I've just really had this negative association with this word teacher and educator. And so I've been like looking up another word to call myself. And so when Maryn, you were like, let's talk about matrescence, I was like, no way. Because recently I've been like looking at the word matriarch, right? As like this woman leader who looks after her community or who cares about her community. And I was like, I think rather than calling myself an educator, I would want to aspire to be like a matriarch instead. Um, and so, yeah, I'm just glad that Maryn, you were like, we should talk about this word. Um, but anyway, I don't know. I like spin myself into these uh, tangents, and then I'm like, where were we? Back to the trunk.
I mean, it is amazing. Like, women are
Yeah.
amazing. And I don't know if we talked about it, but yeah, I read this book. It was kind of like the equivalent to the hero's journey, but it's more the heroine's journey. And they were just talking about like these ancient civilizations where in ancient civilizations, like many women were revered as gods, like as a connection to the divine because of their ability to create life. You know, every person on this planet was given birth by a woman who went through, right? And so it is very profound. Like, it is amazing. It's like, of course, there's inconvenient symptoms and things that I'm experiencing. But then when I go in 1 month and you see the ultrasound, and then the next month you see little bones in there, you're like, they just, wow, like they magically appear. It is amazing. And you don't realize that we have this, capability until you go through it. And so I agree with Rée. Like, I think it's helped me to connect more with my body and just appreciate myself and my identity as a woman. And
Yeah.
maybe it's a process of kind of redefining that, because one thing that I think Lucy Jones was mentioning was just, with the whole girl boss
Mm.
movement and the focus on career, like that was kind of the era that we were all raised in, where it's like, you want to be an independent woman, you want to be educated, you want to have your career. Well, then there wasn't much talk about matrescence and being a mother, like the experience of pregnancy, right? I mean, I think I even held those biases growing up, like, oh, anybody can be a mom, like, right? And so almost looking down on it. But now I do have a huge respect for the process. And so, yeah, I think I'm in the
Mm.
process of maybe reclaiming that part, like in a similar way to how we
Yeah.
have kind of reclaimed our Asian identity, during these phases. So, yeah.
Funny. It like reminds me of I don't know, lately I've been watching and like just reading more like I guess it's like
Oh,
fiction
yeah.
shows, but like around witches, right? And a lot of that are is because of like powerful women and then males being very fearful of the power we have, right? And I think it goes beyond just, yeah, like what we can do physically to create life and whatnot, but we do have an intuition. We do have these connections, right? Like
Mm.
I would say there are some things I sense in
Can't.
my
Yeah.
kids that my husband doesn't, you know? Right? And then I think that comes part of the anxiety, I think there's something off, like I'll know like when my
Hmm.
kids are feeling sick or probably starting to fight something before, he does. And even if he did know, I'm like, he'd probably still send him to school. I'd be the one like
Hmm.
fighting for them, like they need a mental health day or they need a, like, like she's getting a fever and this and that. But I just think back to that, and there is something powerful about being a woman and just society. I mean, ever since, yeah, for like ever, right, has tried to
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
take that power from us. And I really, yeah, like that idea of like trying to reclaim all of that. Um, because
Hmm.
especially right now, like it's getting really
Yeah.
scary to be a woman and feel like we've made so much progress, and now, we're kind of, well, as a society, we're regressing into where women don't have power,
Hmm.
women are not seen as equal, and all this stuff, and
You
it's
know,
really
so as
scary.
you're
So,
saying that, I've kind of been thinking about, so like part of matrescence is all of your relationships change, like the relationship to yourself. You have a new relationship with somebody you created. Your relationship with your significant other changes. Your relationship to your parents change. Your parents-in-law, those change too. And then because everything has changed, the needs that you have also changed. So the friends that you used to have fun with or used to have deep conversations with, those are not enough anymore. Um, your needs completely change. And so your social needs also change. And so your social schedule also changes. Like everything changes because you become a mom. And I think if we're kind of going out in these like societal and relational changes, I think the relationship between your significant other is something that I don't think we talk enough about. Um, because, recently it's really hard for me to overcome this resentment of feeling like, why am I the one like holding the family together, or why am I the one who has to sacrifice my like time to make sure that this is done for the family or what this is done for the family? And it's really hard for me to overcome this resentment. And so I've been like stewing. And so I had this conversation with my husband, and I said some things that looking back, I was being so selfish. Like, my entire life has changed. Why aren't you seeing that this is so hard for me? But also, like, his life has changed too. And I was just thinking, like, I don't feel supported. And oh gosh, I'm gonna cry again. But it's like I'm not supported, but to expect for my husband to meet all of those needs is irresponsible of me. And like my anger towards society for not having those supports for me, I shouldn't be blaming my husband, or I shouldn't be taking that out on my husband. He really is doing a lot. And when I look at some of the things that, you know, mothers say about their fathers or about the fathers, like my husband has tried to not be those types of husbands or fathers, like he has no free time or no downtime, because as soon as he's done working at work, he comes home and he's a father and he's a husband, like he has upended his entire schedule. Like he has a system, right? He comes home and if there's laundry, he will put the laundry in, and he will put all the stuff in the dryer as soon as he's done preparing dinner. Like, and for me to just be stewing like, I have to do all the dishes. Well, yeah, because your husband did all the prep and the cooking. You should do the cleaning, you know? So I was like feeling so sorry for myself, but, and that's okay, but also to expect, your husband to meet all of those needs, or it was very irresponsible for me to do that. And, I had to make that journey. But now I know, actually, I'm very grateful for what my husband does and how great of a father he is. Um, and I have to work towards creating communities and a society that actually does help mothers feel supported, rather than me trying to make my husband take the blame for me not feeling supported. So, yeah, it also made me really, like, this whole journey of matrescence has helped me realize, what can I do in society to make it a little bit easier for the next generation of parents? Because I know one day my daughter might become a parent. She might be a mom. So how can I make society a little bit easier for my daughter to be a parent within it? So, matrescence is not just about your own journey, but it's also about the evolution of the relationships that you have within society. And yeah, I think it's really important to continue having this conversation. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a juicy topic definitely for a future episode of how, motherhood and pregnancy changes your relationship to your partner. And, you bring up a
Oh,
big
yeah.
point about how motherhood is very lonely. I mean, in many cultures, like typically it would really take a village, and, in some cultures, like they don't discount the mother after the birth. That's one thing that I've heard is through the pregnancy, like everyone's happy for the mom. And
Yeah.
then once the baby's here,
Yeah.
everyone's focused on the baby and they forget about the mom, even though the mom is going through so much. And like, that's kind of the hardest period for some people. And so we're really missing that in our society. There's huge gaps in terms of
Yeah.
just the emotional, mental, social, healthcare
Yeah.
support for women. Because I was actually listening to another podcast. There's this, I think she's an
Oh, yeah.
OBGYN named Karen Tang, but she was just talking about how underfunded, OBGYNs are. They only get paid like a few $1,000s for the whole entire pregnancy and birth process. And that's part of the reason why you're rushed in and out of your appointments, and they're really not incentivized. She was actually
Oh,
mentioning
yeah.
that the anesthesiologists that come
Yeah.
in, I think they're the ones that give the epidural. I mean, they're
They
in there
make
for
so
what,
much
like
more.
20
Yeah.
minutes or less? They get paid more than all of those, right? So there's just like an incentive problem. And like clearly in the States, I mean, they don't give two shits about women and motherhood, working moms. And so I think what you're talking about, Ray, is like, it's
Right.
like, it shouldn't have to be a zero sum game because there's just so much on the plates of both, both parties, the person giving birth and the partner, and there needs to be more support. And I think a lot of moms feel very lonely, if you're not around family, and just everyone's so busy. And we live in a society that very much values, hyper independence, and not, especially coming from Asian culture, not asking for help. And so there's a shame associated if you can't do it all. But
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, yeah, I'm already seeing that. Like, I have my own business and I have some flexibility. And with all these changes going on, like, I just couldn't imagine like having to go into the office every single day,
Yeah.
no matter how I was feeling. Because some women have even
Uh-huh.
harder pregnancies where they're like throwing up every single day from the first day till the last. They can't even keep fluids down. And you have no pregnancy, like you have no, you're going to lose your job. And it's just, yeah, we live in a society that doesn't
Yeah.
value motherhood
Yeah.
at all.
Mm-mm.
So that
I think
definitely
our
needs to
society
change.
thinks of it as like a fundamental, like, it's like a necessity, and that it'll automatically happen. And it just absolutely zero support. And I think, yeah, I guess in like a sentence, I think society takes motherhood or womanhood or, yeah, that whole journey for granted. It's like, oh, it'll happen and, they'll figure it out. They don't need much support. But I feel like society could be so much more enriched, and I think everybody could feel supported and like they were valued if we gave mothers and parents and family units more support and resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I see a lot of parallels between like the Asian identity and identity as a mother, because it's almost like the model minority myth where it's just like, oh, you're just supposed to be this perfect,
Yeah.
productive, efficient worker. Nobody cares about your humanity. Nobody cares about the cost to your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. It's very similar for mothers. It's just like, oh, that's just natural. You should just be able to do it. Right. And that's just simply, yeah, it's not the case. So yeah, that definitely needs to change. So I think this will be, yeah, definitely an ongoing topic. And if you have any, specific questions or things you want us to address, definitely shoot us a DM or a message at Your Asian Besties. And I guess to wrap up, let's kind of come up with a word or phrase that describes your matrescence journey at this time. And then maybe another word if you want for bonus points, like a word or phrase that describe like what you want people to know, or maybe like what you want people to know about matrescence.
Right, you want to go first?
It's hard to think
Yeah,
some up
it's
per
hard.
usual, but
But I think, Maryn, I'm going to ask you first because I feel like, yeah, what do you think?
yeah, I think right now it's really just,
Mm,
for me, it's the process of surrender. I found that I just really have to surrender to my body and be in tune with my body and what my needs are, and to rest and to not judge myself. So I'm trying to like practice surrender and acceptance of like, if I need 10 hours of sleep, that's what I need. And I can't be as productive as I normally am, but that's where I'm at. So, and I think in terms of what I want people to know is just that it's hard, and women are very strong and they deserve more support and to have more. And I think that starts with more awareness about what, this journey entails and how much um, sacrifice that women do, how much energy it takes really for women.
well, so in knitting, there are two sticks or, and you use, like, you create the fabric on one side and there's a working yarn. And so essentially you have to hold these two sticks together to feed with the yarn to connect onto the developing fabric. And I just think of that as you have to hold there needs to be something that gives structure, and there also needs something that needs to do all the connecting. And so I think for me emotionally, it's like I have to, so I guess in one word, it's like juggling, right? Or it's something like that. I'll come up with a better word one day. And then I think the word for what I want people to know is, yes, like Maryn said, it is hard. And you might be feeling a lot of resentment or self-pity, but that while you're holding space for that and allowing that emotion, allowing yourself to feel that emotion, you should also balance it out with finding gratitude and something that brings you joy and something that makes it worth it for you to keep on going. So it's like, yes, feel that resentment, feel that hatred, feel that pity for yourself, because you do need to have empathy for yourself and compassion, but also to know that that does not need to be the only definition, or that's not the only thing that should define you. That it is possible to create the life you also want simultaneously. Maybe not an equal amount. But anyway. Okay, Lia, back to you.
Snaps to that.
Yes. Well, that reminds me of a quote, right? Like you can
Yes,
have it
that's
all,
so
but
good.
just not all at once. So, um, yeah, I think on that note, or the theme that sticks out in my head of
Mm,
matrescence is seasons. Um, Things come in waves. Like there have been difficult times, tantrumy phases from my daughter, or gloomy phases from my son, and then other times where it's like everything's going along swimmingly. We go on family vacations. They're helping plan like our next outing, and it's just they're telling jokes and stories. Things happen at school. So I think it's that, right? There will be seasons where it feels really rough, and then other seasons where, you're like, I wouldn't trade this for the world. Like, there is nothing like being a mom. And I think with that, like, just everyone on the call, right, is I'm hitting a point. My son turns 10 next month, and he reminds me constantly, double digits, mom. And I count down the days till he's gonna move out of the house, go to college, and
yeah.
I'm like, he's only 10 or gonna be 10, right? And
Hmm.
it goes by fast. Like it doesn't feel like a decade. I'm like, you used to fit in my arms. Like you used to not be able to talk and
Yeah.
think and play soccer. Same with my daughter, right? It's just, like every day it is like seeing a new human being, and it becomes so much more
Yeah.
noticeable like when you leave them for a few days and you see them and it's like they've changed. And I don't know,
Yeah.
like you don't see it, right? Like from the day to day, but when there are moments you have that awareness, you're like, how does this happen? Um, so it's that. I think it's, everyone has said it time and time again. Enjoy this journey. Yes, there are hard, sucky times, but you're never gonna get this time back. So
Mm.
I'm gonna cry now, but
That
yeah, like
reminds me of the quote,
uh, it's
like the
it's
days are long,
amazing.
but the years
Yeah.
are fast. So, yeah.
Yes. The years are very fast. I used to think a year was 365 days. That's a lot. But now I'm like, no. Like it's March. It's gonna be April. Like every month like is going by fast. And yeah, so
Yeah, there must be some type of, I don't know if the word is grief or, kind of having to mourn, like the speed of
hmm.
change, right?
Yeah.
Is part of the matrescence journey of, as soon as they say, as soon as
Yep.
you get used to one thing, then it all
It
changes, right?
changes.
And speaking of seasons, I think there is someone that
Mm.
like talked about the seasons of matrescence. I don't know what it is
Mm.
yet, but maybe I'll try to figure it
Okay,
out and
next episode.
come back, yeah, in a
Yes, I
future
want to know.
Yeah,
episode.
thank you.
Yeah, but this was really beautiful, and I loved hearing your perspectives as someone who's, you know, a mom
I'm definitely
train,
a mom
not
in
in, I don't know
training.
what you call my
Oh.
face.
You're pregnant. You're like, you're, yes.
Yeah, Sean, my husband is like, you're pregnant. You're pregnant. That's what I am. So, anyway, thanks so much for joining and sticking with us. We'll definitely see you in the next episode. Bye.